See, when we talk about the truth, okay, we're not talking about anything specific. We're not talking about a system, we're not talking about a religion, we're not talking about a philosophy, we're not talking about psychology. We're not talking about anything other than this moment which you are. This moment is holographic. This moment is complete. And in truth, there is no time and space as we think of it. And lately we've discovered that in Skyping with people. I Skype all over the world. You see? In Skyping there's no time and space. It's a different time, it's a different space, but it's always now as we talk, right? You with me so far? So we're entering a level of understanding now that we never had before, that everything is now. And when you understand that now is all there is no other truth than now. But now is not a philosophy, it is not a psychology, it is not something to learn, it's not something to study. It is. So when we read many books and we read about truth, we think we are learning something. There is nothing to learn. It's all one word. Now, allness, oneness. There's no you or me. You think you are you. I think I am me. But in truth, that very awareness of knowing that you are is a wholeness. It is not an individual thing. Are you with me so far? You are not an individual. You just think you are. And because of that, we raised our children to be good, not to talk to strangers, to do well in exams, to do well in school, be a good boy. You see, in doing that, we have instilled an idea that they are separate individuals. And because of that, the Enneagrams came into being. It is a study so perfect. It's better than any psychology I've studied, it's better than even astrology. It's the most accurate thing. What was interesting about it is that everybody is a particular Enneagram. And in that Enneagram, you see only one facet of truth according to the way you've been brought up. You see? For example, and I don't want to go into detail here, but the Enneagrams are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay? Every living person belongs to one of them. What each Enneagram shows is how you think about yourself and the world. How you see it. You see it according to the way you've been conditioned to believe as a child in the first 6 years of your life. Okay? That has become your conditioning. And unless you wake up to the truth of your being, you spend the rest of your life believing that. Okay? So, for example, let's take 2, 4, and 6 of the Enneagrams. Okay? Now 2, 4, and 6, I'm mentioning it is because the last few years as a hypnotherapist, most of the clients that came to see me belonged to a 2, 4, or 6 category. Okay? And one thing they all have in common is that they had a missing father, an absent father. But this absent father does not necessarily mean, if you are a 2, 4, or a 6 Enneagram, it doesn't mean that the father was absent physically. He could have been absent psychologically or emotionally to your needs. Or maybe he was hard on you. So because the father figure has a lot to do to balance between the yin and the yang, the male and the female and the family. And so the people who have been brought up without a father energy, an absent father, that doesn't mean that the father again was missing. It means that maybe he wasn't around to care enough. Or maybe he was an alcoholic, or maybe he was too weak, whatever. So when you have an absent father, these people 2, 4, and 6 develop certain characteristics. 2, people are always seeking love in everything that they do, but they are never satisfied. They're never happy. Okay, because they're not in touch with their true nature. You see? Number 4, they have been robbed of their identity because as children they were abandoned. And because of that abandonment, they begin to think they're not good enough. And so they spend all their energy trying to be good enough by emphasizing their identity, by emphasizing their personality, but there is no such thing. There is no personal identity. This is something that every awakened human being knows. There is no personal identity at all. You are spirit. You are pure being. And then there is number 6. Sixes are, they develop a form of paranoia. They become afraid of the world, and the world is very, very real, and something is always happening around the corner. Okay? And sometimes this stays for the rest of one's life, this particular belief system. Now, how do you deal with this? Very easily. Get to know the Enneagram that you are, and every one of us is one, and then begin to see how it relates to you, and you'll find that they're so accurate. Just when you read your own particular number, they think, oh, how do they know you? How do they know me? That's how accurate it is. And then you begin to see that that's because we have been brought up with the belief that we are separate from God. You see? And remember, when we talk about God, we are talking about oneness. We are talking about the essence. We're not talking about an entity. There's no such thing as an entity. God is. God is not something. God is the wholeness itself. It is pure love. You see? It is pure joy. It is pure bliss. It is pure knowing. But of course, the human mind not being ready for this vast advancement which we are now entering, okay, they came up with religion. But religion was never founded by the founders. Jesus, for example, never established Christianity. That's a fact. Okay? He was the symbol of purity and being. Buddha never founded Buddhism. It is his followers that made up Buddhism. You with me so far? So these religions were made up by men, and they formed a belief system in order to live by certain rules. But these created a structure that has more stifled us than released us. Because the most beautiful thing that you can know about yourself is that there is no ego at all. But the Enneagram says you are this particular ego. Okay? So this is where the difficulty starts. And the difficulty is that when you are a particular Enneagram and that you don't know that you are God itself, your true nature is that wholeness itself, you actually buy it hook, line and sinker that you are this particular person, and therefore you lose the most precious thing you have, called trust. Now remember that when we talk about trust, you are not trusting someone or something. Okay? You're not going to trust Burt or trust some teacher or trust some guru. Okay? Trust has to be self-trust. It is trusting who you are. But the first thing that you lose when you don't know who you really are is self-trust. And when you lose self-trust, then you're always living in fear. And you live on the surface of things. You never look deep, you see. Now we'll discuss that, what it means to live on the surface of things. I received this, this email. And she said to me, she said, as a lower self, I was always talking to my higher self. Now I realize I am the higher self. Then suddenly I have no one to talk to. So who shall I say my conversation to now? Okay, do you understand? This is the way she wrote it. Are you understanding what this person is saying? And so when I saw that, I mean, I had to read it because it just broke me up laughing. She's so cute. Anyway, see, we cannot think in terms of not doing something to something. Do you know what I mean? We are so dualistic creatures that we cannot relate other than me to something else. We cannot see ourselves as complete. And we have been brought up not realizing we are complete. You are whole. You see, you are oneness itself. Look at us here, sitting here. There's only just a few of us, but we are one. Different body, different viewpoint, different mentality, but it is the same being. We are the very same being, and it's called love. But we cannot understand love unless we start to understand what trust means. So, so the loss of trust, which all Enneagrams have in common, because that's what an Enneagram is from. You believe that the world is real, you believe the way you've been brought up as a separate human being, and because of that the Enneagram came into being a few hundred years ago. And it's one of the most accurate studies, and it's now being handled in universities to understand human nature. So, so the point of this is that what happens when people study the Enneagrams, that after a while they begin to think, oh, I'm a 2, or I'm a 3, or I'm a 4. No, you show those characteristics because you believe you are separate. But in truth, you are not those things. Okay? In the truth, you are one. So the Enneagram helps you to that point. Now, let's go a little deeper. Just bear with me because whatever comes next for me to say comes to me, and then I say it. Okay, so I haven't planned this. Now, what causes us to lose trust? What causes us to lose trust are the first 6 years of our life, when we are brought up by parents who tell us that you are a separate human being. And the moment you begin to believe that, then of course you begin to think, gee, I should be more understanding. I should be like my parents want me to do well in school, or I should be like this, or I should be like that. Well, the moment the should comes into your life, you are already undermining who you are. Because who you are is perfect for you to be that. But because of the training and conditioning, we have certain ideas how we should be. And the way you are, really, is perfect. But the reason we don't act that perfection, it is because we've been brought up to believe that we should be in a certain way. Am I making sense here? Mm-hmm. Okay, right. And there is no certain way how to be. There's only to be, because you are. Okay, so therefore we go into trust. Now, what is trust? See, trust is not in something. Trust is not in anyone. Trust is simply knowing that you are complete, and to trust that. To trust that you are the very essence of life itself. You had no beginning and you have no end. Oh, the body changes all the time. Yes, the body keeps changing all the time. And it seems as if we have many past lives and future lives, because that's just the movement. But in truth, there is only now. Only now. Did you know that there's no exit to now? There's no exit to now. You're always now, always now, always now. So you begin to realize the now, you know that you are the eternal now itself. Okay? So this is how we begin to understand our true nature. You see, the moment you begin to glimpse this, even minutely, you begin to transcend the Enneagram itself, which reaches to your perfection of being. You see? The reason people live the way they do, with so many fears, did you know that the insane asylum it keeps it increasing annually? Because people think they are separate individuals. Wars are created because we think we are separate individuals. But now we're moving into a whole new sphere of understanding. The oneness of life. How we are all one. There is no separation. And until we think and know that there is no separation, we cannot know what love truly is. So love and trust are really one. You see? Now what is the difference between love and trust?
There's no difference. No difference.
There is a slight difference. The difference is this. But you're right. There is no difference. But in the way you look at it. Love is the very nature of God. Love is the very nature of life itself. Trust is seeing that. Did you understand now what trust is? So they are the same thing, you are right. But trust is looking at that love as being the truth. You see, there's nothing to learn, there's nothing to study, there's nothing, is to see that you trust that which you already are. Not something you're going to achieve, not something you're going to be. It's something that you already are. Well, the moment you understand that and you trust that, that's called the awakened human being. That's what awakening is. Trusting that which you already are and have always been. You see? But you always think you're going to arrive at that. You always think that you're going to come to that. You see? But what you keep doing all the time is identifying with the way you've been brought up, which you can't help. We have psychiatrists, psychologists, and counselors to give us a semblance of some identity. And most counselors will give you back your identity. But the highest teaching of all, there is no identity. There is only being. You are a human being. Being playing the human role. See, that is the most beautiful thing. And I didn't realize that for a long, long time. It took me 27 years to come to the point where I realized there is no Burt. There's just only the appearance of Burt. You see? And the appearance of Burt is valid. But, you know, people judge you according to your age, to your sex, to your education, to how you look. But you're none of that at all. It is karmic. It is what you have accumulated through a sequence of time. And now you are appearing as that particular thing. Because it's all an evolution. You see? Am I, okay, you're all with me so far. Right. So this is all evolution. And this evolution never has a time. See, we think in terms of evolution as something primitive finally realizing itself. But that realization is always, even in the minutest thing, is there. You see, it has to be brought out. It's always present, always now. And when we wake up to it and you realize it, then you realize we don't need to know anything or do anything, but just to be who we are, which is love itself. That is the complete, you see. Okay? That is the complete thing. So, so where are we now? So, what is trust? Are there any questions at all about trust?
I'm just working with that. Is trust in then would be the realization of the illusion of separateness.
That's right.
And that would have you fall back into what you always were, which was love. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. When we look at anything, you see what we do, because we think we are so personal, that the moment somebody says something to us, oh, you happen to be Enneagram 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, there's no 10. 9. Okay, we begin to identify with that and we think, oh, they have those limitations and I think this way and that way and therefore this is who I am. No, this is not who you are. This is who you think you are. You see? So the moment we begin to move into that sense of the Enneagram helps us to see how we think. You see? But we are far more than that.
As long as we then don't fall into the illusion of the tool that an Enneagram just is. Just a tool.
Just a tool. That's all it is. It is not the truth. But it's quite accurate in the way the mind thinks. You see, because the mind, what we call the daily mind, thinks in terms of time and space. It's linear time. Okay? Why? Because we cannot function in a physical form if the brain wasn't linear. You with me so far, right? So we think in terms of past and future. The body is changing all the time. Every 11 years, every cell of your body is totally renewed. You know, this body of mine has gone on 5, 6 different bodies more. You see, you were a child and then you became, boy or girl, and then you're a teenager and then manhood, etc., etc. And it was totally different. The body's totally different. Everything is different. Your values change. Everything is different. But the one thing that never changes is the one who is looking. You see? The one who's here. The one who's here is always here. And there's never a time when you can remember a time that you were not. It's not possible. Because your true nature doesn't live in time. You see? It lives in an eternal isness. Because your true nature is God. Your true nature is love. Okay? It is complete. And if it reaches, what will you? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So that's trust, therefore, is not trusting in something. People always think, oh, I don't trust this, I don't trust that. That is only because you don't trust yourself. Okay? Trust is always self-trust. The moment you begin to see yourself as this incredible being who is everyone and everything, you know, you see, the mystery is how you are everyone and everything, and yet you have your own vantage point of looking, right? You see, that is the greatest mystery. I think it was Jesus who said, the greatest mystery is how Christ lives in every heart. You see, it is the same Christ that you are, but yet it is the one. It is the one appearing as many. Okay? The best example I can give is the ocean. There's only one ocean, but it has millions of waves on its surface. And the moment we look, we think so much with the surface mind, then we think that the surface waves are the ocean. But if we listen and see with our heart instead of our physical eyes, we see that the ocean itself is so deep that we can't even conceive it's another world by itself. If it goes miles down deep, the ocean, you see, it's another life. So what I'm saying is that we are no longer looking at the surface. When you start seeing who you are, we're looking at the whole picture. See, you are a human being. Imagine that. How grand you are. You are being, playing the human role. You see? So when you see that, you begin to see that you are actually without limit. And when you begin to feel that in you, then the personal part of you that gets offended, gets hurt, gets afraid or shy or feel less or more or whatever, that identity dies. And the moment it dies, you're in heaven. Because you're free, because all that's left is love. Nothing but love. You see? You don't judge others, you don't minimize anything, you don't classify anything, you don't categorize anything. You just see and look and experience. So, so where do we go from here? Are there any questions at all? Because what I'd like to do is answer a few emails that have been asked and see it from the point of view of the being that you are. In other words, see it from the totality, from the wholeness, okay? Rather than just being an individual. See, as long as you think you're a separate individual, you've got problems. But the moment you begin to see who you are, it's in a completely different way of seeing. But there's another thing here which has to be emphasized. People think, but I can't help myself thinking in an individual way. Of course not. The I will always be there. But the difference is this. Now you think that the I is just a body and a personality. But when you begin to see that all the other I's, 7 billion on this earth, are all the same one I, we're all the same, just different bodies, different nationalities, different beliefs, we begin to see our oneness. Now love begins to flower. The moment love begins to flower, you begin to understand what you never understood before. But the I is still there. But now it's a different I, because you're thinking in terms of we, you see? You're thinking in terms of wholeness rather than I as a separate individual. Okay? Now the individual itself, that's another beautiful thing, is that you never lose anything. You're still you. You'll always be you. You'll never be anything separate. But now you have a greater clarity because you've gone beyond the surface. You don't just look at the surface and say, well, this is who I am. You don't look at the waves, at the ocean and says, oh, the waves is ocean, the ocean is waves. You begin to see that the ocean is a depth that you can't even conceive, because you cannot even reach that depth, because there are creatures that you've never seen before. Even Cousteau, you've heard of Cousteau, right? Mm-hmm. Even Cousteau never plunged deep enough to see. Thank you. Okay. So, so this is what happens. So the question now is, how do we learn to trust? Okay? You cannot deny yourself. You cannot say, I must change my thinking. No, never go into that. Many people do that. I must start thinking differently from now on. Did it ever work? Many people say that. No, don't think differently. Just see a grander picture. Always see a bigger picture. Because whatever we look at, we always see minutely. We always see a very small part of the whole thing. You see? Yeah.
Now, it seems that there's, because we don't trust, there is a part of us that wants to gather that security through whatever, through enneagrams, through any kind of identification we can lay our hands on.
Very good. Very good. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So then the tools become the actual weapons that keep us from there.
Right. So this is why the enneagrams, for example, if we do not understand their real meaning, they can become an obstacle.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
If we have the trust, then it opens up to have access to all that world without needing it to prove our worth or identity or any of that.
We don't need to prove anything.
We are no longer driven by that. So that's my sense is that the world and the tools that we get are still trying to identify us because we are afraid and don't feel enough and need. It's because of that hollow disconnection with the nature of who we are. And from there, all hell breaks loose, so to speak.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
The moment you try to protect who you think you are, the moment you get hurt, the moment you defend yourself, at that moment, You see, you plunged in the deepest ignorance of your true nature. See, but then you might say, is that person doing something wrong? No, if they were to look at it.
Be aware of that.
Be aware of it. If we become aware of how unaware we are, that becomes our highest awareness. Yeah, that is the whole thing. So always be aware that you are unlimited. There's no limit to you because you are an infinite being. You see? And we are reaching times now, you know, young people living in this year. We are very fortunate because in a few years to come, we're going to see changes we've never seen before. Even computers are very recent, you know. So we've gone through such changes in the Second World War, just, you know, 1945, 1950, whatever. You know, it's the people didn't have the slightest idea that we've advanced this much in just a few years. Okay, and we're going to accelerate more and more every year because we're entering a different dimension and it's speeding up. It's speeding up tremendously right now. And if we don't catch up, see, if you look at the news, if you look at what is happening, the world is heading towards chaos, you know, and on many, many different levels. Wars are still going on, and it has always been going on. But at the same time, those who are growing and expanding, we can see even from the internet now, so many people are waking up. And if we look for them, we'll find them. People are beginning to understand things they never understood before. And it's all so simple. There is no you. There is only you. Do you see? Do you understand that? You understand that? Yeah, there is no you, but there's only you. You see? Because whatever you see, whatever you look, you see, you only see yourself. And that's quite something. Now, how can you not love what you see? How can you not have compassion and understanding towards what you see? You see? And that what you see is always now. Feel it out now. No beginning, no end. Yeah.
And that what you see is either your own struggle or your own
If you see limitation, all you see is your own limitation. But when you start to look at what is, really is, not what you think is, but what is, okay, you begin to see that's unlimited. You know, how deep you can go. And we go deep by simply seeing what is deeper than this. There's a technique when you look into the mirror and you look into your own eyes. And then you ask, who am I? But really mean it. And there's a moment when people get scared after 10 minutes. Did you ever try it?
Not for 10 minutes.
And then but if you stick it out, you begin to see changes happening. Oh, the face will begin to change in the mirror, of course, because anything that you look at for a long time begins to change shape. Because nothing is solid. You see, it's all imagination made real. Because that's the way that the mind can function. Okay? But beyond imagination lies the infinite. And the infinite is from where imagination came from. The infinite is all that there is, but it appears as people, things, world. You see? So, how about this? We take some of the papers and pick one, and then for a moment after you've read it, take a momentary pause and realize that the one who read it was just the reader, not you. This sounds kind of funny, but are you understanding what I'm saying? You see, when I came out to talk, I wasn't sure what I was going to say completely, but I enter a state sometimes and I ask, okay, talk through me. Okay? and then there's an energy that takes over. Okay, this is what I'd like you to do. Forget yourself totally and really feel out what you've read, and then see it from the perspective of there is no individual, there is only oneness. There is only trust. Okay, because love and trust are one and the same thing. But again, love is, you cannot define it. The closest thing you can call love is God. Okay, love is. Trust is when love becomes real to you. Because all you're ever trusting is the love you are. You cannot trust somebody else, because the moment they let you down, you turn against them. Okay? The point is, you cannot trust the world either, because the world can never be stable. But there's one thing that you can trust completely, and that is who you are. That is the truth of you, because that never changes. Now when the trust in that comes, now love. That's what love is. And that's what Christ is. See, Jesus was perfect love, because he trusted the Christ in him so completely that he couldn't make a mistake. You see, because he lived from that light. And therefore everything that he did was the perfection of the being. You see, and he became the Buddha is the same. Buddha became the Buddha. The Buddha means the enlightened one, okay, the perfect one, whatever. And see, so he became everyone. And so the understanding was never personal to his body, but the wholeness. Okay, so are we clear? What if we read that and explain it from the point of view of that trust? And you might say, oh my God, what if I goof up now? What if I'm not correct? Is Burt going to be mad at me? Okay, if you have those thoughts, wipe them out, please. There is no judgment here. Whatever you say is going to be okay. And then we'll go into it, okay? So be as free as you can, read it, and then explain it from where it's coming from. Where the trust comes in. Okay, who would like to start? Okay.
I'll start. Dear Burt, hello and how are you, brother? I'm writing to you from New Zealand, a long way from Canada. I have watched some of your YouTube videos and they touched me. The simplicity of this is sometimes so obvious and natural. The awareness of the I amness sometimes comes to me so simply and naturally. But it is still me becoming aware of this. It does not make me realize the interconnectedness of things. This is the challenge for me, I guess, how to dissolve and how to become aware of the interconnectedness of all things, and to carry this awareness at all times. Any advice from you is appreciated. With love.
You did it well, thank you. Okay. Where does trust come in? That's what we're talking about today, trust, okay?
There is a lack of trust in the awareness that he's actually seeing himself doing this, and in that he's only identified with the if he could trust that awareness that he has separated himself, then he could dissolve. He doesn't need to hold the interconnectedness of all things, because he is the interconnectedness of all things. And so to try to hold it is to create the dichotomy that makes that impossible. And that's...
Very nice. Okay, who would like to be next? Yeah.
Since I have chosen my right mind, I notice that I seem to fit in with people a lot less than when I used to, and can rarely see eye to eye with anybody. I still have the faith of God in my choices, but can clearly see the wrong minds of others, and it can sometimes be quite frustrating. I know that others have their right to choose their wrong mind, as I did for 39 years, and it is all part of the miracle of conscious experience. So I am not in judgment of anyone, just frustrated. Did you find the same thing when you awoke to truth?
Of course. But you answer it now. Yeah. Where does the trust come in?
Well, I guess from this place, I'm not hearing that there is much trust, because there's so much judgment, both self and of others.
Mm-hmm. So how would you advise this person? What would you say to this person?
Well, it's the as within, so without. You know, I mean, it's his own division inside is seeing such separation, I guess.
Yeah. See how beautiful it is though when we take our time and really feel it. Yeah, it's okay to be nervous, okay, when you're doing this. It's okay, it's natural. It can be because we think in terms of, I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to say the wrong thing. But as you allow it, the intelligence that is you, the God that is you, surfaces. But it takes the courage to do it. You see what I mean? See, that's the beautiful thing. Once you start, look at how much wisdom starts to come out. Who would like to be next?
I'll go.
Okay.
Thanks for the reply, Burt. One thing that I am not clear yet is the difference between seeing and trusting. Which one should I use? Or both? I find myself every time I have a sensation in my body, I stop and try to look at it directly until it melts. But this way I find myself caught in my sensations and ask myself why. Can I just trust that the being that I am will take care of these sensations and I don't have to run after them? If you could explain it for me, it would be greatly appreciated. It's inquiring the difference between seeing and trusting.
Mm-hmm. That's right, that was the opening one. Yes.
So he feels like he's doing the seeing on his own, as if this is something that this is an action that he has to take. Versus if he were to trust, then he wouldn't have to do the seeing. There seems to be a dichotomy like this. So which one should I use, or both?
So how would you advise him? What would you say to him?
I would say that this dynamic that he's explaining and he's pointing to, the whole dynamic is being seen by this awareness. So
that's beautiful.
So while he's identifying himself with this action, so there's sensation, I'm going to go look at the sensation. Even that's being seen.
Even that's being seen. That's right.
So it's there. So that seeing, that he's explaining what he's seeing. That seeing itself is is that space of trust.
That's right.
That's where the trust comes in.
Yeah, right. See, it's a matter of, that's right, the seeing and the trusting. And that you trust that what you're seeing, as you get absorbed into it, you find it's correct. It is. See? Right, that's beautiful, thank you. Okay. I'd like to be next.
Okay. Also, one more thing, Burt. I'm caught between thinking positive thoughts and letting awareness do its job, and self-organizing my thoughts into what I ultimately want, which is love. What do you recommend? Thanks again.
What does Burt recommend? And in this case, it's you, not Burt.
Mm. The positive thoughts are love.
What is love to you?
It is that full acceptance and trust of the being, that there's nothing else.
That's nothing else. That's right. That's right.
So,
yeah.
So this person is continuing to see it as separate, that this awareness doing its job and organizing the thoughts to what they ultimately want is love. They're seeing love as a separate thing in that sense too.
Yeah, you see, this is also when we talk about love, we have so many ideas of what we think love is. And we can't help it because love is everything. You know, it's emotional, physical, spiritual. It has so many different levels. But we only know love to the extent of what we thought love is, or what we believe love is. But there's no limit to love, because love is not something. And when we begin to realize that love is not something, and we start to trust that non-something, that's the awakening. Because can you think of anything that is separate from love? Nothing is separate from love. Nothing. Can you think of something that's separate from love? See, in the beginning we think of love as an emotion. That's such a minute part of love. It is love, but it's a very small part of love. And then when you begin to feel one with another, that's a deeper love. You see? And then you begin to feel your connection to the whole universe. Now that's infinite love. And then you begin to see that love can never make a mistake. Now that's God. See, but there's no limit to this understanding. You see? But love is all that there is. And because we think in terms of so limited about ourselves, we limit also the love that we are. You are love. You're nothing else but love. See? Love is not something you're going to acquire. It is your nature.
It's resting in that spot to
yes,
let the thoughts organize themselves.
Yeah, you don't need to worry about anything. That's the most beautiful thing. Yeah, let the thoughts do what they want to do. Let the thoughts be. And they'll let you be. You know, we are victims of the thoughts because we try to get rid of them. We try to control them. But you're not a victim of anything because you are love. You see? And when you allow something to be, it takes care of you. The most wonderful thing is that the life is intelligent. It's infinite intelligence. And when you start trusting it, you trust it so completely, you'll find it starts giving you everything that you've ever wanted, even before you actually knew what you wanted. You know? See, that is the secret of life. That life itself and its wholeness. I like the word God, you know, as long as it's not, you know, talking to a religious person. Because the word God is complete, you see. It is wholeness, it is being. It is.
When I first read this, I didn't have any idea, a clue about any of this, but maybe something will happen now, I don't know.
Very good. Nice.
We'll see what happens here.
That's right. That's right.
Please let me know the difference between understanding and listening. Now, I would say that he's looking for something he's trying to understand. And there's nothing to understand. He's trying to get to a point where he knows, he wants to grab hold of it. And the same with listening. He's listening for something to happen.
Yes. So what does listening mean then? As you answer him, what would you tell him that listening really is? Real listening, that is, not just listening to something.
Real listening is trusting again, I guess.
Very good. You see how much wisdom we have? That's it.
Yeah.
See, understanding, we understand with our mind, we understand with our thought, we understand with our conditioning, but listening, you're not listening to something, you're just in tune. And when you stop and become still, and you make nothing wrong, no one wrong, you begin to understand things in a whole new way, because you are listening, but not listening to a sound or listening to anything. You are tuning in. You see, you're opening yourself up to that which is happening. The moment the mind judges, the moment it reaches a conclusion, you're dead. You're stuck to your own opinion. But when you start looking and you don't give it any limitation at all, you take it on a whole new level of understanding, of seeing, you see? Very good. See how much wisdom we have? Does anybody want to answer something more? We have more, don't we?
Yes.
Mm.
I have realized that we have two choices in life, love or fear, and that every choice is as simple as that. I did choose fear for a long time without conscious awareness of it, as all of us do before we awaken. I can see so much anger and hatred in people now that I never used to really notice. And it is quite sad to experience that through, in time. Though in time, I guess it will just be another thing that can be viewed without personal attachment.
That's the whole letter?
That's the whole.
Oh, that's the whole letter. Okay.
Yeah. Perhaps there may still not be a forgiveness of his choosing of fear, in that in some ways love transcends the duality even of love and fear.
Mm-hmm. Very good, yes.
And that which is working and appears as anger, hatred, that too is love working. And can be loved and compassionated.
That's right.
Because it's all fodder for love.
Right, because love sees everything as okay.
Yes.
And even the biggest fear. melts in its nearness, in its closeness. That sometimes we miss that because intellectually we try to, how will we make it right? How do we change this? We keep forgetting that we are love, and love is the answer to everything, you see?
And we fear the dark and the unknown.
That's right.
But
and we think
don't
it's
know.
something so complex.
We think that's right.
The complexity is only ego, not love. Love is the simplest thing there is. Even the smallest creature, the smallest animal seeks love, wants love. It's the most natural thing. And we are love. That's the Christ essence, or the essence of light itself. Yeah. Somebody likes to volunteer? Read one? See, when you start trusting yourself too, are you seeing the beauty of trust here? You start trusting yourself, you take a chance, you read it to the group, you know. And yeah, there is fear, because fear is that limiting part. But that's okay, because fear, it does not hamper you as long as you go ahead and do it anyway. Fear is only on command, is in charge when you give in to it and you run away. See, but as long as you don't run away, that is one of the most beautiful things you can do, is to do it anyway. You see? And so when you start doing that, you enter a different level of being, different level of seeing, different level of allowing, because now you're loving you. You see? You're allowing yourself that you are not wrong in your seeing. Okay, can we have one more?
Here's one. Read?
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry to have to email you again, but I'm struggling here with anxiety and sadness. I watch your video, but feel like I don't know how to implement what you say. You will forgive me for wondering, when watching them, that he doesn't know how I feel. Well, by struggling with anxiety and sadness, you're creating more anxiety and sadness. You're trying to get out of the anxiety and sadness.
Is the anxiety and sadness.
It's just making you more anxious and sad.
Right. Right.
So
that's the vicious circle of the ego, right?
yeah. So just trust whatever you're feeling and allow it.
And allow it.
And
Don't see it as wrong.
No.
And when you don't see something as wrong, what happens? If you look at the fear, you really look at it. You know, you're not running away, you're not trying to correct it, anything. It's there. It's obvious. Okay? And you allow it and you look at it. What happens when you look at it? Can you give your own examples or experiences that you've had? Or
Well, if you don't resist it and let it be, then it just is the energy it is, and it has nothing against you.
That's right.
And in that is pure trust.
Yeah.
So it's almost like regrouping in trust and the fears.
The moment you meet fear head-on as it is, and you look at it as it is, and go deep into it, your wisdom starts to flower at that moment. That's the very fact that you wanted to look at it is the great wisdom. We never want to look at our fear. No, I don't want it. You see, we want to run away. That's why we create maladies and problems and sicknesses. But the moment you look at it, a whole new being surfaces. Because we think we are small, you see. We do not realize that the very wisdom of the universe is in us. The moment we look, the moment we allow ourselves to see, we transcend limitation.
I'm just hearing something really clear about, I mean, if we don't have that trust, how could we not be full of fear?
Yeah.
Like it's just...
See, when you allow the trust to take over, that's beautiful, okay? There's fear, but you allow it to be there. So you're trusting enough to be with the fear and not run away from it. That very trust is more powerful than the fear.
But that trust is the essence.
The essence.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. That was good. You see? So the moment you have the courage to look at something, that very trusting to look, becomes the greatest teacher in you. You see? The greatest teacher is you. And when you trust that part in you, that starts to teach you. Because
the fear always comes up because it's the identity of the body or the humanness, right?
that's right, yeah.
And
it's
the,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the belief and that's the identity, and when you bring the trust,
Yeah.
it brings the being into the human experience.
That's right. Yeah. And everything is okay. You see? But the point is not to run away, because the moment you run away from something, not only you made it more real, but now you've also succumbed to defeat it, in other words. So now it has power over you. You see? Never give power to something that scares you. Always face it, always look at it. And that very looking begins your wisdom. Okay, my beautiful people. Okay, thank you for doing this. This is great. I know I put you on the spot here, but sometimes it's necessary, because to really start trusting yourself. Always trust you, trust who you are. That you have more wisdom than. See, we've been told when we were young, we've been called names, we've been told this and that you are this and you are that. You're none of that. You are everything that is beautiful and good and lovely.